If you're someone who feels like there's more inside of you, more purpose, more potential, but you're still trying to figure out how to fully step into it, this episode is for you.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious, motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
For me to win, you must lose.
Right.
I always felt like I had some great mentors with me, coach me. And, it was never about beating somebody. It was always about me being my best. What was in me? There was more in me. How do I develop myself? I go off the principle, you either compete or you create. Where I was always about creating something new in me. Like when a man, this is what I've found, when a man understands his mission, his purpose, the thing that he's built for. I said when the dream is big enough, the odds don't matter. When the dream is clear enough, the odds don't matter.
What if the thing holding you back isn't fear, but a lack of clarity about who you need to become? This podcast is all about helping you unlock your inner greatness and live your best audacious life. Today's guest is Gavin Topp. He's a former professional prize boxer turned men's coach, author, and mentor whose work focuses on helping men step into their purpose, discipline, and authentic strength. What really stood out to me in this conversation was his perspective on courage. Gavin really had a unique take on it, and that's not about removing the fear, but choosing to move forward anyway. It's something that we've talked about an awful lot here on this podcast. So glad to hear him share those insights. There's so much he had to share, so let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Gavin Topp. Enjoy. Hey, Gavin, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
No, absolute pleasure. I know, just having a quick talk with you now. You're a world changer. You got a massive audience, so I can't wait to get started.
It's awesome to spend the time like this. For me, these are conversations, more than anything else. And, really a labor of love, as I was saying offline here before we got going. And, the opportunity to be able to share like this and potentially help people who are eavesdropping on our conversation, and they can take what we're having and put themselves on a better trajectory. So it's really cool to be here. And I thank you for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely, mate. Pleasure. Can't wait. Let's go.
Yeah. Now you have, we all got our stories, and yours is a fascinating one as well, being a former prize boxer. And certainly that embodies, the grit and determination, of being a prize fighter, if you will. But you've sort of taken that and transitioned it in your post-boxing realm really to focus on helping men. It's really about, develop their masculine, their purpose, and that's just a phenomenal angle that you've taken. Certainly the themes of sort of redefining ourselves, reinvention, but also identifying our strengths. And so all wonderful themes that fit nicely what we talked about here on the podcast. So maybe as a starting point, Gavin, if you would tell us a little bit about your background, the work that you do, and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, thank you. And I suppose, growing up as a young man, like a lot of young men, I had parents that loved me to bits, but, they were finding their way also. Like we all are. I'm married with 7 children. I don't have it nailed. But then along the way, I was very fortunate to, my dad took me to the boxing gym, and really he took me there because I was getting beaten up. I was getting into fights, but I didn't know how to fight.
Right.
And when I got to a boxing gym, it was almost like duck to water thought,
Okay.
man, this is awesome. I could get a pat on the back for doing something that, because I suppose I grew up without an education. I never learned to read and write. That kind of put me behind the eight ball. And yeah, once I got into boxing, man, I could be, I could actually give 100%. And I
Right.
accelerated relatively quick, within a
Yeah.
couple of years. But I always felt there was something missing,
Mm.
and I remember getting this idea to go traveling. I don't know, my parents would buy and sell businesses, and they had this caravan park this one time, and I met all these guys from around the world, particularly around Europe. They were like backpacking,
Right.
and I remember getting the idea. I wonder if that will make a man out of me. So
Hmm.
I got some money together, booked a ticket, and took off, and went for about 8 or 9 months from Asia to the Himalayas, then over
Yeah.
to Europe, and it was a recipe. I mean, for adventure, but I nearly hurt myself a few times. Just
Mm.
looking to test myself. So literally, when I got back to Australia, I actually ended up in a 12-step program. As it turned out, I had a drinking problem, but everyone knew except me.
Mm.
So,
Right. Right. Right.
but I
The
was
big secret, right?
yeah, I was very fortunate at that first meeting. A guy knew me from the boxing gym. There was a couple of guys there. One knew me from the gym, and this another guy said to me. He kind of put his finger in my chest and said, "Son, there's something in you that only you can fulfill. There's a mission. There's a purpose." And I
Wow.
knew like he articulated it really well. That was what I was feeling and thinking.
Right.
Well,
Right.
and so I kind of said, "Well, what have I got to do?" And he said, "Don't drink from now till tomorrow, and I'll see you again." So, but long story short, I wanted to be a fighter. So, literally 5 years into sobriety, I actually went to Canada, to Edmonton, and actually fought for a Commonwealth title there,
Okay. Okay.
become the Australian champion. I got to live my dream.
Wow.
Of course, a lot of business. I got business opportunities. I brought 4 houses in that first 5 years. But with this masculine journey, it doesn't
Yeah.
just end there. We must continue to grow and develop. So hence I've continued to grow and develop, which I've been able to author a couple of books. There was one time there where I was helping so many men in Australia, and a lot of men, everything was in person. And
Yeah.
every men would fly from different parts and even New Zealand to come and do my program. But there was one time there where a couple of men wanted to do my program but couldn't. And they end up, they lost their businesses, their marriages, and some men even took their own life. So that's when I first wrote that first book, A Rite of Passage for the Modern Man.
Mm.
So I could help blokes, so men could be helped without coming. So, and then of course when 2019 happened, well, it was actually before the pandemic. I felt I'm a faith man, and I felt God was saying, "Man, you got to change, you got to shift, you got to." So that's when I closed what I was doing. I thought I'd have a break, and
Mm.
then 3 months into that break, when I was trying to work things out, how I could reach more men, I actually had there was 4 men in 4 weeks commit suicide. So that just
Wow.
nearly took me out. And
Wow.
these weren't men that were down and out. These were men who had everything.
Right. They seem
Well,
successful. The world called them
yeah,
successful.
the business, the
Yep.
cars, the yada yada yada. It's like, what the heck's going on here? You know, and so that's when I really we put that first book online, and it took off. It just took
Wow.
off. And
Wow.
what
Wow.
really got me was, like, we were just advertising on Facebook in Australia, but
Hmm.
I couldn't work it out. I thought there was a problem because 90% of the books were being sold. Men would purchase them between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm
Okay.
like, but that's actually when they were up looking for the answer.
Something. Ah. Ah.
So, so hence that's when
That's
everything
insightful.
that I was doing in person
Right.
and leveraging that boxing gym, To really that book, because one of the point of it was that I would get men that had never had a fight. That was their qualifier, right? Uh, so you could get in on, yeah, but in the DNA of every man is a warrior. We're designed for battle. But it ended up over a 10-year period, it ended up being more of an initiation and validation process
Mhm.
to become
Wow.
a better man.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a powerful story, Gavin. Give me an insight. I want to sort of start your boxing career here. Give me an insight of sort of how high did you achieve? How well did you do? And then I'm also sort of curious as you sort of look for, you think of how your life has progressed. How did your experiences in the boxing ring shape your life?
Yeah, I fought. I started when I was, um, I think in 1990 as a 16-year-old, and I ended up, I fought till 2007. I was like 34 at that time, and I ended up being ranked number 12 from the world. I ended up fighting
Wow.
in Germany, world title eliminator, but lost that. But ended up, hey, I did my best, man. I had a go, you know. But the thing was, I got and I ended up an Australian champion.
Hmm.
I I never, and this was interesting. I found it interesting because a lot of people, I found it interesting. A lot of people would say to me, particularly when they do the boxing program, they'd never had a fight. They would say things like, "Oh, I'm not that competitive," or I could never get that angry. And of course, funny enough, when I boxed, I was never angry. Or I never felt like I was being competitive.
Right.
And I understood that when you've got that competitive way about you, I found out later, like that's like for me to win, you must lose. I
Right.
always felt like I had some great mentors with me, coach me, and it was never about beating somebody. It was always about me being my best. What was
Mm,
in me? There was more in me. How do I develop myself? Yeah, I go off the principle you either compete or you create. Where I was
right.
always about creating something new in me. So, but yeah, I suppose I got to rank 12th in the world. But
It's a big deal.
it's funny because I remember retiring and then coming back because I remember thinking after I won the Australian title that I'd have reached my goal and the passion had left me. But it
Mm,
wasn't until a little while later I realized because I didn't think big enough because there was more in it, but I just couldn't see it.
right.
So
Right.
that's when I had the idea. Imagine if I could be the world champ, then I could maybe reach more people. But
Got
what's
you.
really amazing, I think, and I laugh because, you know, it was always about who I needed to become. So what got me to, I believe, be the best I could be at the time was I had some men show me this transition from boy to man. You know,
Okay.
a lot, there's a lot of different indigenous and so forth sort of rite of passage, this transition where you take on responsibility, when you
Hmm.
have the courage to follow your heart. When you have the courage to go all in on what
Right.
you can see in your mind, you know.
Mm.
So I got to live my dream, man.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think that point around being, that point around being angry. I wonder, is that kind of a myth that you got to be angry to box? Because I would imagine that, there's, so here's what I know about emotions. Emotions cloud our judgment, and so when you're in that boxing ring, there's strategy, there's planning, there's all these things that come into play that emotion will cloud and get in the way of, and so it sounds like to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you're the former pro here, but it sounds like, losing your emotions in the boxing ring isn't to your advantage.
Well, I remember very vividly in training as a teenager, fighting as an amateur. And I remember losing control, losing my emotions. And I remember just things not going well.
Hmm.
And I remember getting out, and I remember my dad saying to me, my dad was a fighter as well. And my dad said to me, an angry man is an easy man to fight. He's predictable. So, yeah, have you ever played poker before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you never show your hand.
That's right. That's right.
You know, yeah, you know, really, you need to just be like stone faced,
Yeah.
whether you're good, bad, or otherwise. And I think many times, and this is something I learned over time, whereas, you know, I found that, you know, my dad was amazing. He was able to really validate me at crucial points and with boxing coaches as well. And I remember one thing he said to me was he go because he told me I knew his background, I knew my parents' background. It was a little colourful, and he told me some stories, and like he took a bit for him to get settled. You know, he was in and out of jail like when I was a kid, when I was younger, when I was born, etc. So he validated the strength. I knew he was strong. I knew he
Right.
was tough. And I remember there was some times where he said to me, "Listen, son, you are the spit out of my mouth." And I'm exactly like he goes, "There's nobody tougher than we are.
Right.
We can cop all." And I remember fighting and thinking, man, I've given this guy my everything and he hasn't budged. But I just stood my ground and just kept doing what I knew I needed to do. And I
Yep.
think there was a couple of times eventually where I would see a crack in his army. I would see emotion. I would see him
Yep.
looking for a corner or somewhere to, I gotcha. But
Gotcha.
I was feeling like he looked, you know. And
Yes.
yeah, I don't know if that answers your question,
No, it
man.
does. It does. I think it plays it because emotion, no, it's really it's about keeping our emotions in check to make
Yeah.
sound decisions and to strategize and to be ready for the fight, if you will. And that helps us, stick to plan. And actually, on that, I remember, and you might be familiar with this, that Mike Tyson quote that says, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And then the plan kind of goes out the window. But and as funny as that sounds, I think there's some real truth behind that in terms of the reality of life. When life really hits you, literally, right? That's when your plan gets tested. Do you see any truth to that?
I think I get what he's saying, but that's what separates men from boys.
Mm,
See, all right, it goes out the window. No, it shouldn't go out the window. You just because you get hit doesn't mean it goes out the window.
right.
Because it gets hit, you get back to hang on, what am I here for? You know, what am I doing this for?
Mm,
Have I done the prep? Am I ready?
goes
You
back
know,
to the
if you're
purpose.
not, get ready in the moment, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's letting a lot of men down. They have that, oh, things don't go my way, so I can get, I can do whatever, you know. Whereas I think about, I think this is what I do, okay, when times get tough. I think about what my parents went through to get me here. I think
Mm,
about what their parents went through.
yes.
Think about what my grandparents went through, what my parents' grandparents went through,
The
and now
journey.
I've got 7 children. You know, and great men. They always think about they always want to leave a better place than when you came. You know,
Yes.
so I can't drop the bundle. I can't. There's too much riding on me being improving, becoming a better man.
Yes, I get it. I get it. I get it. You talked earlier about toughness and strength, and for me, it's impossible to have a conversation about strength without talking about vulnerability and the role that plays in our individual strength. I think sometimes people, vulnerability is this thing that gets misconceived because, like, oh well, you're not being strong by being vulnerable, but you actually are. I wonder if you can give your take on vulnerability and how important it is to our inner strength.
Yeah, I remember a little while ago when this world all of us, words have different seasons, don't they? And they
Yes.
change over a period of time. It almost feels like people use. But I remember looking a couple of years ago at that word in the dictionary, and one of
Yep.
the versions said to actually lay down arms, to
Hmm.
be vulnerable and lay down arms.
Yes.
And there's a for me there's a question mark, but I'd instead of laying down arms, what I would prefer to say, and what I say to the men that I coach in my man alive experience, I would say, hang on, because it actually says in the Bible to be alert, to stand firm in your faith, to be a
Mm,
courage, to be strong and do everything with love. Whereas when it's be vulnerable, I prefer to say be real, honest, and authentic.
mm.
Then it's okay. You can say whatever you want. I know who I am. I know
Yes.
what I'm here for. You can,
Yes.
when a man knows his purpose and his mission, well, then you're not getting talked into things you don't want to be talked into, and
You
or
got it.
talked out of things you shouldn't be talked out of.
Right. Right. Right.
So yeah, I think that's a lot of people using that word don't actually know what it means. Oh,
Uh,
hey, because I'm not educated, I love to go to the dictionary, man.
sure. No, no. Why not? Why not? Education isn't necessarily about amassing all the knowledge, it's knowing where to get it and what to do with it.
Yeah,
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 okay.
yeah.
Wisdom is knowing what to do with it, and so it's two different things. So no, I don't focus on that at all. And I'm curious, when you sort of, I guess when we're thinking of the balance of faith and family and even your own purpose in your life, how do you manage all those three and make them all work at once?
Well, man, that's easy. That's easy. Like when a man, this is what I've found, when a man understands his mission, his purpose, the thing that he's built for. I say when the dream is big enough, the odds don't matter. When the dream is clear enough, the odds don't matter. So a lot of the men, particularly, we do a Become a Better Man challenge. It's
Okay.
a 4-day challenge, right? One of the things that we do in day one is to actually we understand what is the enemy. What is the thing that's holding you back, taking you out? In that, in understand that day one, understanding your enemy, a lot of men, it's almost like they're rowing somebody else's boat. So
Mhm.
what I do is really simple. Where you've got yes and no. All
Okay.
right. Really simple, really clear, the way men like it. Yes and
Yep.
no.
Yeah.
Some men have got their no's where they should have their yeses and their yeses when they should have their no's. They're doing things they shouldn't really be doing. That's not aligned with their purpose and mission. So for a
Mm.
lot of men, it's more about taking things away, not adding things to.
Mm.
When you take away the things that you shouldn't be doing that aren't aligned with your mission and purpose, it actually becomes easier. You
Mm.
actually create more time.
Right. Right.
And I mean,
Right.
man, like 7 kids. All right. People say, how do you do it? Say, well, it's called structure, discipline, and accountability. And
Yeah.
without sounding like like I run my family like an army, a drill sergeant, but it's really clear when you're doing what
Yes.
you need to be doing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think also too when you're doing that and you're doing this and the things that you're passionate about, that you want to, that you care about, it doesn't necessarily feel like work, right? Like it's when you do what you love and you love what you do, you're just doing, you're just existing, you're just being, and it's not that you don't get tired or you don't feel moments where you're drained. That's not what we're talking about. You don't feel like you're working, like it's a hard thing to do. Is that fair to say? What do you think on that?
100%. And I'm going to say something now, right? If it's okay, can I give your listeners something? Because this is perfect.
Please, please, absolutely,
If
Gavin.
you go to Gavin Topp, double P, gavintop.com, yeah, I've got books and different things, but in that I've got, which I'd like to give. It's a gift, all right? There's the 8 biggest secrets successful men make.
Okay.
If you go to gavintop.com and go there, I'll give that to you. That will help
Gotcha.
in saying no's and yeses.
Yes.
So, yeah, what was the question you just asked?
Oh no, it was about when you love what you're doing, right? And you're passionate about it, and
Yeah.
you don't feel like you're working, right?
That's right. And this is one of the things that I take men through is when you understand your gift and your talent, the thing that
Mm,
comes easiest to with the least amount of effort. And because that's where you should be spending most of your time.
yes.
And
Yeah.
and then what I do a process with men where I find out. Well, we tell a series of stories and ask a series of questions. Okay, and then we seem to locate men's dreams, and literally 80% of the men, as they go through that process, they'll go, I've had this dream inside of me since I was a boy.
I love it.
Since I was a teenager.
I love it.
Some have had men say since their earliest memories, they've just lent this way. So but this is where it takes courage because most of us get talked out of our dreams. People say things like, well, that's not realistic. Well, dreams are not meant to be realistic, but once you understand and get clarity on that dream, you say
Yes.
no to the right things. That's when you start to really articulate your purpose, the thing you're
Yeah.
built for, and then into your mission. But to answer that question, I remember I've been sober maybe 3 or 4 years, and I was doing like I'd started fighting on Fox Sports. All of a sudden, we went in my first 6 months of sobriety, me and my wife, we were getting food vouchers. We didn't have enough money to eat, right? And then all of a sudden, got these opportunities and we're away. And I remember being at a mate's funeral,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in some ways he was a bit further down the track. He was kind of I looked up to him. He was kind of a mentor, and and he committed suicide. I
Mm.
remember throwing some dirt on his box, and man, I was rocked. I'm thinking if it could happen to him, it could happen to me. But I
Right.
remember creating like an oath, because I had mentors that were helping me with that, creating oaths, agreements to live by. And I
Okay.
remember the oath I created was, I'm only going to do what I love. Unless my heart is fully engaged in what I'm doing,
Yeah.
I ain't going to do it. And
Wow.
and and
That's
over
a
the
strong declaration. That's a strong
yeah,
declaration.
over the years, as I've done that because it's my word.
Yes.
I've only done what my heart's been fully engaged. Man, I refuse to work
Mm.
unless my heart's in it. But in saying that, it's led me to my purpose. But also in saying that, what I've realized with coaching so many other men, when they've not, because it takes courage to live like that. When they
Right.
haven't done that, they've actually been living other people's purpose.
You are. I think I
And
agree with you.
you're in the way.
Right.
That's
That's
why
right.
life can be hard,
That's right.
and you feel like you're the square peg in the round hole because you're doing probably a cousin of what you should be doing.
That's right. That's right. And what happens is that, so I oftentimes we talk about, life being like an analogy of a pathway. So we're on this pathway. Well, if you're not sticking to what's yours, you're probably on someone else's pathway, going in a different direction and where you're supposed
You're
to
in
go.
the way.
Yeah. 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 I'd love for you to talk about what living with courage and authenticity means to you.
I suppose probably what it means to me. Well, it means, well, I'll give you an example. All
Okay.
right. Because you imagine for years, from 2009 to 2019, and even into 2020, I would train men that had never fought, and then they would have a fight, and they'd fight in front of 800, 1,000 people. So it was always about who does a man need to become to step through those ropes,
Mm,
not caring about what anyone else thinks. And then, of course, that's even everything I've ever done, I've always gone the creative mode, you know,
yes.
and even running, like going from having a traditional in-person men's program thing going online. I wrote my first book before I could read.
Hmm, that's
Because
impressive.
of the passion, because of the mission.
Yes. Yeah.
It's only been the last few years. I've got some glasses and dyslexia and all that. I'm sort of sorting my way through it. But
Right.
but an example, all right. I have a very good life back in Australia. Like
Yes.
everything that I ever wanted, I have. Right, a
Hmm.
property,
Yep.
working from my paddock with my horse. Like
Yep.
my box ring in the middle of the paddock. I thought there's more in me. So it was like in 2023. So another oath that I've created is that, I've quite a few oaths that I live by, but one of them was, my wife's amazing, giving her life for our family, And a few years back, I created an oath that I wanted my wife's dreams to come true. So I'm here in the Mediterranean. Gozo, a small one of the Maltese Islands. Her father, is 73, but he left when he was 3. So it was
Okay.
her dream to always want to come to Malta and spend a season.
Oh,
And so I said, I talked to her about it, and I said, all right, this is in 23. I said, in 3 months, we're going. I'm taking you, going to live your dream. I'm going to start. I'm not going to talk about it no more. We booked the ticket. And
wow.
this is like and then the following day she goes to me, what is it we actually need to do? We're going in 3 months. What do we need? I said, get a pad and pen. Let's work out what we need to do. And of course, and the whole, my parents who love me to bits. What about the kids' education? What about this? How long
Yeah,
are
yeah.
you going for? When are you going to be back? I'm like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, I'm getting a one-way ticket. So I mean, that's courage, having the
Yes.
courage to follow your heart without knowing or having all the ducks
The
line
answers.
up.
Yes, yes,
Ducks
yes.
never line up, man. And I tell you something, life, this is what I live by. Life, it's either an epic adventure or it's not.
Mm.
And when I say it's not, oh no, I'm choosing adventure. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's what we have. My younger kids are still in school. They're learning Italian. They're learning Maltese. They're like I mean, where they've joined. One of my sons just got selected for the national Malta water polo team. So he's
Okay.
going to like Cyprus, Greece next month. I mean, man, all these are, I think when a man and a woman, but particularly, I coach men, when we get on purpose, on mission, we create oaths and principles to live by. Man, it's an epic adventure.
Yeah. It sounds like it for you, and you certainly are living that, which was wonderful to hear. So I'd love to hear how you help men overcome that fear or failure or judgment, because I would imagine that's the piece that's holding people back to taking the types of steps and bold moves that you described.
I love that question. How do you overcome it? Because I always say I can tell you exactly how to avoid those things.
Hmm.
All right. For you listeners that are watching or listening, how to avoid fear and judgment. I can tell you it's three things. Say nothing, do nothing, be nothing.
Oh, okay.
No matter what you do, man, you're going to be judged. No matter, and if you do anything that requires courage,
Yes.
adventure, purpose, mission, you're going to feel the fear. Like people, I fought for 18 years, and people would say to me, how did you get over the fear? No, I felt fear every song, every single time.
Yes.
That's courage, doing it in spite of fear.
Mm,
Remember, when the dream is big enough, man, the odds don't matter.
that's right.
You just learn this is a part of the journey. I don't have all the answers. But I tell you what, you know, when I look at say nothing, do nothing, be nothing, I look at the alternative, man, just give me a chance, man.
Yes.
Give me a chance. Give me a chance. And I mean, I suppose me being a faith man, knowing that God has put this like I say to every man, God has put these dreams, these desires in you for a reason. He wouldn't have put them in you if he didn't know that you could do it. So, one of the things that I take men through is an initiation and validation process. So, when you understand you can't not go full tilt on this mission in you, like, man, and I think a lot of men, I'm sure you'll agree with me, as men, we can cop most of the rubbish in the
Right.
world. But
Yes.
in our later years, one thing I think that kills men, drives men nuts is regret.
Yes. Yes.
That
Yep.
that that time I could
Yep.
have. Well,
Yep.
I can't cop that.
Mm,
I'd
mm.
rather I'd rather go all in and fail. It's like even if it's funny, we talk about that boxing career that I had, and I thought if I could become the world champ, I would have a platform to talk from. This is the crazy thing about it. With the thousands of men that I've coached, and I'm talking from New Zealand to
Yep.
Alaska,
Hmm.
all out America, Canada, Europe. It's I always seem to talk about what seems to shift men the most
Yep.
is not the wins, it was the losses.
Yes.
It was the time where I had to get up again. It was the
Yes.
when I was in Canada, in Edmonton, right? I got this chronic fatigue. I remember being in the dressing rooms and I couldn't even do my boots up. I
Mm,
was exhausted. I was
right.
like, what the heck? What the heck? I remember it was like, man, God come to me. He saved me. I
Right.
don't know how I fought that 12-round fight. I don't
Mm.
know how I copped that belting and kept going.
But that's powerful. It really is powerful. You kept going, right? And I think the part,
Uh,
yeah,
well,
and the
this is
part,
the thing that I suppose validation from my father. Nobody's tough as we are.
yeah,
Then,
there you
I
go.
mean, I suppose I don't take a knee.
Right, right, right.
That's just not in me.
That just shows how powerful when you plant that seed early, what that does, right? Because that sticks with
Mm.
you, and you remember that, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, so I've got to be this thing because the seed has been planted, and now I got to grow and be this massive tree or oak I'm supposed to be, or whatever it is that you're intended for. And I think that's very, very powerful.
Well, I think I had a mentor years ago, and I remember him saying he was a speaker, and so I would travel around mainly Australia with him. He said, "Hey, I'm speaking here this weekend. Come and spend some time." So I would just at every opportunity, you know. And one of the things that I remember I caught, I got from him, he goes, "Some things are taught, and some things are caught. You catch it in your spirit."
Gotcha.
And I think there was and particularly men on this masculine journey, that's what we've got to look out for. You can read books. I've written books, all right. You can, but it's when, I always say, particularly in my rite of passage book, we need three groups of men in our life. We
Hmm.
need the first one we need to receive from somebody.
Yep.
And a father figure, a coach, a mentor. What's crucial about that is that unconditional love where he speaks into you. He speaks into you what you can't see. Yeah.
Mm,
And then we need that camaraderie, those mates on the same page. But what's crucial about these men on the same page is they must understand each other's mission, so we can hold each other accountable. And then the third bloke or man, we need to be lifting the next group up, with the next man up. And when we've got those three group of men, that will keep us on mission
I
all
love
the
it.
days of our lives. But unfortunately, a lot of men this modern day and age, they go the lone wolf, and
Yes. Yep.
that's where we start to we just fall short of what we could do, who we could.
Mm, yeah. You said something earlier that I want to go back to because I think it's a really powerful statement with respects to who you have to become to climb it through the ropes to get in that fight, and that really what that says, at least what I hear when you say that, is it really speaks to the work that and the process that we have to undergo to not like the fight's an entirely different step, right? The actual fight itself, but who we have to become to get ready for that next step. What the work involved in doing that? What does that look like?
I reckon, and there's different things that we need at different times, but your listeners are probably not gonna want to like to hear this. But I remember a mentor saying to me when I was in my 20s, okay, when I got on track, got on mission, and he goes, "Listen, son, this masculine journey is going to take you about 80 or 90 years to work out." And of course, he laughed just like I am. But, it's kind of true. But obviously, as we go on this journey, you can't. And this is what I think what's happened with a lot of younger men. Well, they have this instant gratification. In fact,
Mm,
instant coffee's not quick enough. We don't even make our coffee now. We just we do a 6 week degree at TAFE, and we want to make $150,000 the following,
right, right.
3 months, like we have, and not to say that can't be done. I don't want to put limitations on anyone,
No.
but the real value is in who you become in the
Mm,
process. That's the thing that will keep you in good stead all the days of your life. And in fact, one of the reasons that we come here to Malta, because my wife's family have two houses here.
Hmm.
Okay. One house is 430 years old. As you can see behind me, it's all stone. The whole island is a rock.
Wow. Mm,
You
wow.
know, and one of the house, so they've owned that house for 160 years. Her father was born there 70 plus years ago. Her grandmother was born there 100 years ago. Like it's a legacy piece. In the middle of that home is a well where they all drink from. That's their water source. So I wanted to teach my children, I wanted to show my children what legacy is, what it means to actually create something. And this is the whole idea with purpose, that you would outlive your purpose. You would outlive the things that you make. And in even this podcast, I think it's brilliant. I think we live in the best time on planet Earth that's
Mm,
ever existed, because we are creating things that
yes.
are outliving our life.
Yes.
I think about the programs and stuff and books that I've created. Oh, I want my children's children to be
Yes.
inspired by them, you know?
Wow. Yeah. No, absolutely. I
So,
think you're right. You're right. I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think this question is perfect then, because so when you think about sort of your journey and all that you've done and become and grown into and how you've helped others and the way you've done that, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would you tell them?
be a faster learner. I would say learn things faster. I would personally, to me, because I had, um, I suppose I had a lot of success when I was younger. I used to ride horses and was in the barrel race. I actually became an Australian champion, and then I went off the rails and I got back into boxing and I developed a problem. So I had success. I didn't. I had success. I didn't. And what happened was, to me, I would say pride let me down.
Mm,
And I think, I mean, you can't go back, but I would say be fast, be a faster learner. And we can do that now. That's the
sure.
amazing with all the
Oh yeah.
technology.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, man. This has been so wonderful, Gavin. I mean, the insights have been fabulous, and I sure love the mission. And the reinvention part to me is just what screams that you've done that, and you've come back at a better version of yourself, and they're using that version to help others on their journeys, which I think is just so fabulous. How do you stay grounded while helping others rise?
Oh man, great question. You know, I remember early days when I was just getting on track in my early 20s. And I remember I was, this is the thing that really helped me. I remember this is before mobile phones or technology or anything like that. But I remember a mentor said to me, and I must have been very self-centered for him to say this, I believe, looking back. He said, mate, and I was complaining about this, that, and the other. And he said to me, listen, mate, what I want you to do, first thing you do when you get up in the morning, I want you to pick up the telephone, dial it, no mobile phones, and just look out for three other men. Just ask them how they're doing. Is there anything you can do to help them in the next throughout the day? And it was and all of a sudden I realized I was helping others. I was picking people up. I was being of service. And
Mm,
what happened after doing that for a couple of months, I had so many people ringing me up, because then some people did the same to me. I
yes.
helped them and then they wanted to help me just in return. So it was almost like I didn't realize, I look back now, what I did was I actually created a culture where people were helping me.
Beautiful.
So it was like, I would say to any man, any younger man, and women, I've got five amazing daughters. I say the same thing to them. Say, be of service. It's better to give than receive. And it's like whatever seed you sow, man, it's going to produce something. So when you're planting that kind of seed of helping others, you actually build a culture of people around you. Because some people you're helping, you never see them again. And that's fine. You did your job. You did your job, you know. But some people go, hey, Gav, what can I do for you? Oh, I don't want nothing. Let's go and help this guy together. You know, and I mean, that's the whole idea. I think, I've been able to take that really into everything that I do. You know,
Beautiful. Well, I love it. And I think it's a wonderful, certainly a wonderful point to close on. And I want to thank you for making that. For listeners, Gavin, I wanted to connect with you directly, learn more about your work or your books or your programs. I mean, you got lots to offer. Where can we send them?
I would say just go to that Gavin Topp, GavinTopp.com. Grab that gift I've got for you. 8 biggest secrets successful men make. And you can see there's a whole heap of stuff, but YouTube as well, the Gavin Topp YouTube or the podcast. Man, we're changing. We've got men from one everywhere, man. Hey, man, bless you. I'm loving what you're doing. You know, you're over 500 episodes. You're amazing. You're a world changer, mate. God bless you. You're amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, and I appreciate the kind insights and appreciate the time. Congratulations on just a fabulous job. I love the mission. I think it's wonderful, and then you call me the world changer, man. You're the champ. You're the champ as far as I'm concerned. So thank you, and again, I really appreciate you being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All right, welcome back. You know, thanks, Gavin, for being here. You know, if you're someone who's trying to step into a bigger version of yourself, today's conversation is a powerful reminder that growth isn't about avoiding fear. It's about becoming the person who can face it. You know, it really hit me was Gavin's point on courage, right? I mentioned off the top, and I mentioned again, it's not about the absence of fear. It's action in spite of it. Whether it's stepping into the ring, chasing your purpose, or making a bold life decision, the work is always internal first. It starts on the inside. Pressure doesn't break you. It reveals who you are. It's time for an audacious insight, which is a quick look at something happening in the real world that reflects the power of bold thinking and intentional action. Now, when Novak Djokovic came back to win the 2023 U.S. Open after facing injuries and public criticism, he didn't just rely on talent. He relied on discipline, mental resilience, and belief under pressure. He showed that greatness isn't built when things are easy. It's built when everything is against you. The lesson is simple, folks. Pressure doesn't define you. It exposes a standard you've been trained to live by, and that's how you move forward. Hey, listen, make sure you connect with Gavin directly. He's doing some impactful work helping men step into their purpose, discipline, and authentic strength. You can check out his books, programs, and resources at his website. And of course, we got all the links in the show notes below for you to check out. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to follow the podcast. Please leave a review and keep tapping into your own audacity. As always, we thank you for being here. It's much, much appreciated. And until next time, keep living life audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious. That's greatness. Be all.